Now we're going to take the small organizer that we drew in SketchUp and bring it into Canvas. We want to utilize a 23.5 by 23.5 piece of wood, but it might, and so we're going to type in 23.5, 23.5, a half-inch thick, and we're going to probably cut this on the big CNC router. So we're going to go machine bed, bottom left corner. We can always change that if we want to move routers. All right. So I need to bring in that VCarve or that SketchUp file. So I'm going to say open. I called mine updated. Make sure all of this stuff should kind of be true, except this bottom one sometimes is clicked. Make sure that's not clicked, and then say OK. Now, here is an interesting thing that happened, is that line that we were messing with trying to delete, it came through in lots of different parts. And part of that is because I tried a few times to make it a component. So if you get extra pieces like this, go to Ungroup Objects, and we could just erase all of the stuff that we don't need. So I don't need these, unless we want to make lots of extra sides. And then we're going to put these onto the sheet. I'm going to rotate these, so I'm going to highlight them and hit Control 9. I'll do it one more time. Whoops. So they're orientated vertically. I'm going to bring each of them down to be on our page. And you can really play a lot with this layout. Sometimes I'll do this. I'll go Control 9. So they're opposite of each other. And then when I do that, I can oftentimes, whoops a daisy, I took too much with that time. Just want to have this one. Because then sometimes I can get a little better yield out of the material if I could kind of mush these a little bit closer together. I'm not at a premium for space, so I wouldn't have to do this. But this will give me a little bigger border that will hopefully make this go a little bit easier as far as the kit. I'm not going to have pieces so close to the edge that they are likely to fall out. But we'll see. Maybe I will not want to go this route, and I'll go back to the way it was before. All right. I like that. Now we're going to have to start making some shapes. So one thing that I need to do is I'm going to first mess with this, because I'm not going to go any further if I have to undo some things in SketchUp. But I'm going to click on this thing, and I'm going to click here. Notice that highlights the outside, this line, and that line. And I'm going to merge these vectors together. So now when I click on the outside, you can see it did that purple line, and it went all the way around. So instead of having two shapes, now we have one shape. And sometimes this can be difficult depending on how SketchUp drew your parts. It may not be that smooth. So if you're having issues with that, grab me, or if I'm there, which I hopefully will be there when you're doing this, but who knows. So I've made those shapes. I think that's the biggest obstacle that I'm going to have to overcome here. Now I'm going to start with these little square, or the little circles. So I'm going to hold down Shift and click on every one of these little guys. And then I'm going to come to toolpaths, and we're going to do a drilling operation. Now, the nice thing about a drilling operation is it references the center of the hole, so it really doesn't matter what size the hole is at. It's going to take the center of it. I want to use a cut depth of 0.505, and then I'm going to select an 1/8 inch end mill, and I want to make sure it's in tool number 3. So we'll select that, and I'm going to call this nail holes. And that's telling me it's going to cut through, and that's okay. So that's the tool path for it. Pretty exciting. If we want to preview the tool path, we can see it drilled a whole bunch of holes through my project. Because we are doing it as the first operation, those rabbets and dados aren't in there yet. So it's going to drill a 1/2 inch through, even though it's really only going to be a 1/4 inch hole when we're all done. So next, we're going to make our dados. And if you remember, we're using a circular cutter. And so we've got to overcut these dados so we get not little radiuses in the corners. So the dados and rabbets, we're going to extend out. Now this middle one, I don't want to extend the top super far, just as far as I need, because we're going to have a little gap there that's visible. But I can take that one out as far as I want. No one's going to see that. That looks good. Those are all overcut. Oops. And if you need to draw new rectangles on top because your pieces didn't come out quite so nice, you can always draw and lay rectangles. Remember, SketchUp is really good at snapping to existing lines. Okay, so I've got all those extended. So now I need to select them all. So I'm going to click on each one, hold down Shift, and I like clicking on the extended part so I don't accidentally click on the wrong line. And we are going to do a pocket tool path. We're going to make it a 1/4 inch deep. We're going to use our 3/8 inch end mill. That's in tool spot number 1. So if I want to double check where this is at, tool number 1, okay. Ramp the plunge moves, and then I'll call this dado / rabbit. And I look and I see I've got those dados and those rabbits. So we are all set. Okay, next I'm going to do this circle. And because it's not a huge circle, I'm actually going to do a pocket tool path so it just gets rid of it. So I don't have a little hockey puck that comes flying out of there. We're just going to get rid of it all. And I'm going to call this decorative hole. Deck hole. Calculate. That's going to get rid of that. I'm going to double check. I forgot to look at how deep that was going to go. I want that to go 0.505. Yep, we want to cut through. Okay, I am going to reset the preview all tool paths, which see those holes go all the way through, these little holes go all the way through, and the dados are all overcut. So everything is going great now. Now we're going to do our profiles. So I'm going to click on the outsides of all of these pieces. Do a profile cut, 5/2 inch all the way through. I'm going to use this 3/8 end mill. Now you may have to use the 1/4 inch end mill. It kind of depends the level of detail that you want. Obviously, a bigger tool is going to leave bigger radiuses, and sometimes people are okay with that, and sometimes people don't. But this is really important to add the tabs. So we want 1/2 inch tabs. You could do an 1/8, 1/16 of an inch. If you're worried about them coming out, I would definitely do 1/8 inch tabs so they're not going to break. And then we're going to edit tabs. Now you want to put these tabs in spaces where there's a lot of wood for it to connect to. And these bigger pieces, I'm going to do 4 tabs on. Because we don't need them coming loose. Now these littler pieces, we're totally okay getting away with just 2 tabs. And this longer piece here, I might throw one right there as well. and we come back and say close. We want to add a ramp, 1-inch ramp, and we're going to call it out pro. You call it anything that you want and hit calculate and say okay. Now we'll come back up here, reset preview, preview all tool paths, and there. So we see that this is going to cut real close to here, and I think we can be okay with that. We still have some sturdy wood to hold these two here. This is going to be pretty thin, but I think we're in okay shape for this. And that's kind of where we'll end it. If we were going to be cutting this out of a big sheet of plywood, and actually let's do this. We'll come back to the 2D view. We're going to draw a rectangle that is 23.5 by 23.5 and create it. And that should go to the outside, but we got to cut this one as well. So we're going to close this, and we can actually just use the same outside profile tool path. Actually, let's do a different one because we want this to be very last. So everything's going to stay the same. We're going to add tabs though. We're going to put one on each corner. So this is if we were cutting out a large sheet. This would be the piece that we get to keep. Close. Add ramps. And we'll call it sheet cut. And we're going to cheat. We're going to put it right on top of the line. And let's see what we get. So if we put it on top of the line, sometimes we'll get a little bit thin around, but it looks like we'll be just fine with that. Yeah, I think that looks great. So you could then save the tool path on the right post processor, the CNC Shark, the Smart Shop M, and that will be your project. This is not the required one. It's just one option for you if you don't have something else that you would like to build yourself.